All right. All right. We've got Andrew Kohrs with MVO here, and Andrew just did a cost seg study for one of my vacation rentals, and I guess this year for last year's taxes, and had a great experience with this company. So just wanted to have you on. Thanks for coming on, Andrew.
Yeah, Jimmy, thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking about cost seg.
Yeah. So real quick before we get into it, like tell me, just for people who don't know what a cost seg study is, just give a brief, very brief overview of like what it is and why a real estate investor should care.
Yeah, sure. So cost segregation, at a really high level, is an analysis of a building or other type of structure to identify and segregate the cost of the components that are eligible for accelerated and bonus depreciation treatment. So, when you buy a building, say you buy it for, $100,000, most of the times you're just going to depreciate that over 27 and a half or 39 years, based on what type of property it is. But if you do a cost seg study, you go in and you look and you pull out the cost for certain components, certain finishes, certain appliances, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing that support equipment and other appliances, and then also some of the exterior improvements as well. You look to identify those components, assign a value to them, and segregate them from the building. And then those components typically, instead of being depreciated over 27 and a half or 39 years for tax purposes, are going to be depreciated over 5 or 15 years typically, and are eligible for bonus depreciation, which was 100% in 2022 and is currently 80% for 2023. So basically what that does is you take a bunch of depreciation that you would have claimed slowly over a long period of time, and you pull that forward, accelerate it to the current tax year. So you get a big bump in your depreciation in the current year, which helps you reduce your taxable income, frees up some additional cash by deferring those taxes to later years. And then, in an ideal world, you would take that, tax savings or that tax deferral, and you would reinvest it, and, making a return on that, instead of, paying the taxes now and paying them at a later date. So at a very high level, that's what it is. It's, an analysis of the building, find the components that are eligible for accelerated depreciation treatment, use that depreciation to defer taxes and, free up additional cash in the short term.
Awesome. And then I got, before we put people to sleep with tax code, it might be easier for you to, I had the study you did for me. I was going to pull it up for this interview and then I forgot to, or I got busy. But didn't I make it's like a crazy ROI, right? Like because you put it in the report. It's like I got like $30,000 of benefit depreciation or something like that. Is that sound roughly familiar or something? I know you do a bunch.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, for small, you had a cabin, vacation home. For those types of property, you're maybe looking an additional $30,000 to $50,000 of benefit in year one, against the cost of the study, which is much less than that. So, generally ROIs in the first year, 10, 20, 30 to 1 return on the fees that you pay to actually get a study done. And then, the bigger your property, the higher the ROI, because, the benefit kind of scales up the more cost basis you have in the property. And, the fees are higher, but they don't expand at the same rate.
Yeah, so that, for everybody listening, we'll have a link up to just kind of get a free analysis. Click somewhere wherever you're watching this, and we'll have a link so you can just get like a free analysis, because I can't imagine it not making sense, but maybe it doesn't, and you can get just a free analysis. Andrew can provide that. Thanks for offering that, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's funny, like we always, in real estate especially, it's about moving pennies, and they just eventually adds up. But this is like a 30x ROI. I mean, you really should have a good reason not to do it, in my opinion, especially after seeing how easy it was for you to do it for us. Of course, it was easy for me. I didn't do it. I just paid you.
Yep.
So, but my CPA was really impressed with your report, just so you know. And
Awesome.
not to jump around, I'm pretty bad about this, but he has a customer, my CPA has another customer that they buy a lot of triple net lease, and it's some kind of weird commercial niche. They do triple net leases, but it's like for auto part retail. So like think auto zones, but it's not auto. It's like a mom and pop auto zone. So they get like
Okay.
a higher yield, but how they were able to do it, giving away a little bit of their secret sauce here, is they were doing cost segs on all of it, and none of their competitors were. So they were they're already getting into yields, like double digit triple net lease yields, which is like unheard of. But then when you throw in, when you bring forward all that depreciation of like a commercial build out, which I assume is significant when you're doing, for a retail location like that, it was like, man, their IRR for their investors was like huge compared to, it's just pretty good little deal. So sorry for jumping around on you. What are you primarily, what's your like bread and butter? I know you cover a lot of different types of real estate. Like I used you for my vacation rental. I know self-storage guys love this stuff. What other kind of like properties are you analyzing?
Yeah, almost anything. I mean, definitely recently a lot in the short-term rental and the multifamily space. It's been very popular. Self-storage as well. But it really works for almost any type of property, retail, office. There's a lot of bonus eligible property in, manufacturing, cold storage, places like that have, a ton of heavy equipment and mechanical and electrical and plumbing systems inside the building to support that equipment. And then they also have huge amounts of land improvements and the parking lots and the fencing and the loading docks and all that stuff that, goes into running those facilities. So those types of facilities, have a ton of cost segable stuff, but, really pretty much anything, it works for. It's a pretty powerful tool. And, you mentioned, that some folks maybe don't know about it. It's been, cost seg's been around for decades. Long before I ever started practicing. I think at one point it was called component depreciation, and then it at some point picked up the moniker of cost segregation. But it's been around for a really long time, and a lot of people do know. I would hope that most people who are investing in real estate at this point do know about it, but there's still a lot of folks that haven't heard about it for whatever reason. So spend a lot of time trying to educate and help people kind of understand what the benefits could be of cost segregation.
Sure. All right. What's the STR loophole?
Yeah, so the STR loophole, so to speak, is refers to the passive activity loss limitation rules. So generally speaking, the government considers real estate investing activities to be passive, although anyone who invests in real estate knows that, from a practical perspective, it's usually not passive, but the government considers rental properties to be passive. And there are some rules that prevent you from taking losses from your passive activities, which is basically what you have when you do a cost seg study. You end up with a tax loss because you accelerate a bunch of depreciation expense, and that exceeds your income from the property during the year. So you have a loss, but typically they don't allow you to use that loss to offset your income from non-passive sources. So, say you've got a day job, a W-2, a 9 to 5, and then you invest in real estate on the side. It's, except for certain exceptions, it's difficult to take those losses from the real estate and use them to offset your income from your day job. One of those exceptions is specific to short-term rentals. There's a carve out in the regulations that says, if the average length of customer stay is 7 days or less, then it's not automatically passive. And then all you have to do is materially participate in the activity, and you kind of unlock the ability to use those losses to offset your other income. So, and then, there's some other things that you need to consider, but it is a pretty powerful tool for folks that, maybe aren't full-time in real estate investing and maybe only have 1 or 2 or 3 short-term rentals that they do on the side, but then they also have, a high amount of income from their normal job. Using this strategy, you can essentially take those losses from your short-term rental, from the additional depreciation from the cost seg study, and use them to reduce your taxable income, from your day job. So that's been kind of pretty big and pretty popular over the last several years. And it can be a pretty powerful tool in the right, kind of situation and circumstances.
Nice. All right. What kind of changes do you see? Like you said, it was 100%. Now it was 80%. What other changes do you see coming in the cost seg future?
Yeah, so you never really know with the government and tax law in particular how things are going to go,
Sure.
what's going to change, what's not. But yeah, currently bonus depreciation is phasing down by 20% a year until it gets down to 0 in 2027, I believe. So it was 100% last year. It's 80% this year. It'll be 60% next year. If they don't make any changes to the current law, it will be 0 by the time we get to 2027. But there's always talk. I mean, bonus depreciation has been around in one form or another since 2001. So it's constantly being re-upped and percentages being changed. It's lapsed for a couple of years and then they bring it back. It all depends on the economy and who's in charge and what the priorities are. But there is a bill currently that the House Ways and Means Committee released that would extend 100% bonus through 2025. It still has a long way to go. I mean, it has to be voted on, by the House and the Senate and signed into law by the president. So, I mean, a lot of hurdles, and it's, bonus is only a small piece of the puzzle. So a lot that would still have to happen for that to be enacted, but it's definitely something that's on the horizon potentially. And I know a lot of real estate investors would be really happy to see that get extended, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. And then, outside of bonus, I mean, in the cost seg space, obviously everyone in whatever industry you're in is constantly talking about technology and, what that's going to do to kind of disrupt the ways that we do things. And I think we're already starting to see that a little bit in cost seg. I mean, there's all sorts of tools out there now where you can, create 3D models of a property with just your iPhone. Like you can walk around the property with your iPhone and a modeling app, and you can quickly develop a model that's got dimensions and it picks up on, maybe the cabinetry and some of the other items. So instead of, walking through and visually inspecting a place and taking notes, which is kind of historically on a pad and paper, which is historically how it's been done, we now have this, pretty easy to use modeling software that's out there that, pretty much anybody could use on their phone and quickly develop a 3D model of a space. And then you could leverage that for the cost seg analysis. So tools like that, I mean, there's even ones I've seen that are being developed more for the insurance space to help insurance adjusters, but they actually use AI to identify the finishes. So not only would you get a model of the property, it would say, hey, that's hardwood floor, those are granite countertops, it could tell you what's actually in the property and it could give you measurements and quantities for all those items. And that's a big part of a cost seg study, is identifying the assets and developing measurements and estimates for the cost. So if those tools continue to expand, I think there definitely could be leveraged by cost seg professionals to kind of increase the efficiency and speed up the amount of time that it takes to do a cost seg study.
Awesome. What are like your best customers, and like and who should maybe not get a cost seg study?
Yeah. So, I mean, generally speaking, the best customers, or the customers that I most enjoy working with, are the ones that are fully engaged in the project and in the process. My history is, I spent 11 years doing cost seg studies at a big four accounting firm. And, we obviously did a lot of studies for, big, huge corporations. And, when you're doing a study for a company like that, I mean, it's important to them, but it's also just one of, maybe 40 different things that are on their
Yeah.
to-do list. So they don't really care that much. And you're constantly chasing them to get information, to get questions answered, to get meetings scheduled. And it just makes it a lot more difficult when you're, constantly trying to pound somebody to get what you need. So, the past year or so, I've been with MVO, been working with, more directly with real estate owners and investors. And, that's a lot better because they're seeing the benefit for themselves. It's going straight into their pocket or hitting their bottom line. They're invested in the project. They, respond to things timely, get the information. I don't have to, really chase people as much to get me the things that I need to do the study. So that I would say is kind of the best customer profile, people that are really fully engaged and want to do this. And then of course from a business perspective, it's the folks that are doing lots of deals. More deal volume for them is great for me because that means more cost seg studies. So from a strictly from a numbers perspective, I would love to have people who are buying as many and as large of properties as possible.
Sure.
That would be ideal.
Cool.
And then
Cool.
I mean, definitely had over my career my fair share of potentially difficult clients, or maybe folks that probably shouldn't have gotten the study done, or maybe we shouldn't have worked with. But the past year or so at MVO, I've been really lucky to have obviously a lot of great clients, and not too many headaches or problems, so to speak.
Yeah, I was before this interview, I was just thinking, I think I'm the use case is that we were gonna actually, I'm just finishing up 4 townhomes, and we were gonna just send you the construction cost sheet, and then obviously just do the video thing like we did before working remotely. But we actually ended up, we're gonna sell them. So I think if you're gonna sell a property, you don't want to that depreciation, increase your tax, it's not really worth it. That's the only kind of situation I was thinking of that it might not, you probably should.
Yeah, that's one of the main scenarios where it probably doesn't make sense to do a cost seg study because it's a timing play. So you're deferring the taxes by accelerating the depreciation, but when you sell the property, you have to pay it back generally via depreciation recapture. So definitely if you're flipping or developing directly for sale, it doesn't make sense to do it because you're just turning around and giving it right back. When you sell the property. So at a minimum, you probably want to, at a bare minimum, probably want to hold the property for at least 3 years. Really 5 years would probably be best. But yeah, if you're going to hold a property for 1 or 2 years, then generally it's not worth the time or the effort to just defer the taxes for a year or two in most cases.
Yeah. And you can, if you've got like a partnership or something, like in my case, you can always, what I do is on the townhome deal, it's like get the gain, but I'll take my portion of the gain and move it into my opportunity zone fund. So it's not taxable. But yeah, but I see what you're saying. What just finishing up here, do you invest in real estate just out of curiosity?
Not as much as I should, and not really at all, honestly. I would say my wife and I are accidental landlords. We had an apartment that we were living in, and then we had a baby, so we did what most people do and bought a house in the suburbs. But we didn't want to let go of the apartment, so we have been renting that out. But I think if any sort of serious real estate investor looked at the numbers, they'd probably say, "Hey, you should have sold the apartment and reinvested the funds elsewhere."
Right.
But historically, I haven't been able to do as much real estate investing as I would have liked because, my prior job at a public accounting firm, there's a lot of restrictions in terms of your personal investments because they want to avoid audit independence issues and, potential conflicts of interest. So in order to invest as an LP in a real estate deal, there's a lot of hoops that I had to jump through at the firm to get approval. And then from like a rental property ownership perspective, they only let you own 2 properties. That's the max. And if you have more than that, they consider it to be that you have kind of an outside job, and they don't really look too highly upon that. So unfortunately, it's a little restrictive. But now that I've been out on my own for the past year, hopefully, we can start doing a little bit more in the future.
Yeah. I always like to ask like my CPA and like my banker friends, like what they're doing or what they're seeing, because they know the numbers like more than anybody. So yeah, I just like to, what if you did invest, like what kind of or what who do you think is making the most money, or like the best kind of real estate that you would want to invest in?
I think the one thing I've seen working with so many real estate investors is that there's an unlimited number of ways to make money in real estate. It seems like everybody that I talk to kind of has a little bit of a different strategy, and they put kind of their own personal twist on things. And I've just seen such a wide range of different approaches and strategies, and all these people seem to be doing well. So I don't know that I would say there's necessarily one area or one property type or asset class that I've seen do better than others. I think the folks that I've worked with that probably do the best are the ones that are just committed and dedicated to their niche, and they are laser focused on either a particular region or a particular asset class or a particular investment strategy, and they go really deep into that, and they become experts, and they really know how to take advantage of those opportunities. So those are the people I think that I've seen that do the best and that are growing kind of the largest portfolios, is people that are just laser focused on a certain type of property or situation.
Cool. All right, man. Well, this is great. That was a great way to end it. So thanks. I'll have a link for everybody watching this, and it'll be on everything: Twitter, Spotify, YouTube. So my email list. So if you want a free analysis, click the link where you see it and get a free analysis by Andrew. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on. Happy to help. This is my first kind of podcast interview type thing, so hopefully I didn't do too poorly. I'll try to improve from here.
No,
but I really appreciate it.
No, it's great. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's great. You kept people awake for 30 minutes talking accounting. You
Which
won
is
the
more
day.
than most. Yeah, more than you can usually do for tax. I know for sure.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah.